The planet Zerath was quiet now, but it had not always been so. The air was thick with dust, the kind that stung the eyes and made breathing heavy. Smoke rose from the half-destroyed buildings of the colony, twisting into the dull red sky like black ribbons. Once, Zerath had been a place of hope. Now, it was a place of fear. Commander Thalor stood on the highest ridge near the settlement, his tall, blue-scaled frame tense as he scanned the horizon. His eyes, sharp and reflective, traced the jagged mountains and shattered structures where his soldiers hid. The warlord's forces had come without warning, sweeping across the colony like a storm. Ships had fallen from the sky, dropping armies with machines that roared and fired without mercy. Each day, the colonists lost more ground, more lives. Thalor clenched his clawed fists. "We cannot hold forever," he said to himself. His voice was low, almost a whisper, yet it carried the weight of despair. Around him, his officers and soldiers moved like shadows, silent and careful. They, too, knew the truth. The colony was surrounded, outnumbered, and running out of supplies. He looked down at the trenches where his troops crouched. They were tired. Many had gone without food for days. Their energy shields flickered weakly, unable to withstand the constant assault from enemy plasma cannons. Thalor could see the fear in their eyes, fear that was stronger than any weapon. He wished he could offer them hope, but there was none left in the galaxy that he knew of. A young soldier named Relan ran up to Thalor, his armored suit covered in ash and scratches. "Commander," he shouted, "the enemy ships are moving closer. They will fire on the central supply depot in 5 minutes." Thalor's heart sank. The supply depot held the last of their reserves: water, energy packs, and food. Without it, the colony would collapse completely. He turned his gaze to the sky. Dark silhouettes moved across the red horizon, ships that seemed too fast, too large, and too relentless. He could see the faint glimmer of their weapons, reflecting like stars against the dust. "We fight to survive," Thalor said firmly, though he doubted his own words. "We cannot leave the depot. Position the shields. Send the light squads to evacuate civilians." "Yes, Commander," Relan replied, nodding. His usual nervousness was replaced with grim determination. As the alien soldiers prepared for the attack, the civilians huddled in what remained of their shelters. Families clutched each other, whispering prayers in their native tongue. The air was thick with tension, every sound amplified in the silence before the storm. Children peeked from behind walls, eyes wide with fear, hoping that something, anything, would save them. Hours passed slowly. The enemy ships moved like predators, circling and preparing. Explosions in the distance shook the ground, sending plumes of smoke into the sky. Thalor's thoughts drifted to his family, long gone, taken by the first wave of the warlord's forces. He felt a pang of loneliness, but he could not allow himself to dwell on it. His duty was clear: survive, protect the colony, and fight back if possible. Then, in the midst of the chaos, something unusual happened. From the far horizon, Thalor noticed tiny glimmers, almost like stars moving towards the planet. He squinted, unsure of what he was seeing. "Commander, look," Relan said, pointing to the sky. "Do you see that?" Thalor's eyes widened. It could not be enemy reinforcements. They always came in overwhelming numbers, and these ships were few. They moved deliberately, steadily, almost gracefully. The soldiers around them murmured in confusion, some whispering that maybe it was a trick, an illusion created by heat and dust. Thalor's instincts told him otherwise. There was something different about these ships. He had studied countless species and technologies in the galaxy, and this was unlike anything he had seen before. "Prepare the communications," he ordered. "Attempt contact. Identify them." The communications officer worked quickly, tapping into frequencies that no one used anymore. Static filled the room. Then a faint signal emerged, a voice human in nature, though Thalor could barely comprehend the words. They spoke in a harsh, strange tone, but there was no threat. They were not firing. They were announcing. The alien soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. "What are they?" whispered one. "Why are they here?" Thalor shook his head. I do not know. But whatever they are not the warlord's forces. Stay alert. Do not fire unless provoked. Minutes later, the ships descended further, revealing something that made every alien heart pound with disbelief. Pods detached from the main vessels, falling toward the colony at incredible speed. Inside were humanoid figures, suspended in energy harnesses. They plummeted from the sky with precision, landing among the enemy lines with explosions that were controlled, not chaotic. The aliens froze. This was impossible. No species had ever survived a fall from orbit like this, and yet these humans, if that was what they were, stood, unscathed, as they readied their strange devices. Their armor gleamed under Xerath's dim sun, and their weapons glowed with unfamiliar energy. Thaler's jaw tightened. This cannot be real, he muttered. The first contact was brief. One human soldier standing at the edge of the debris raised a hand in a universal gesture of peace. Then, without warning, the humans moved forward. They did not hesitate. They attacked the warlord's forces with coordination, precision, and speed that no alien could predict. Explosions erupted where humans advanced. Enemy squads fell, disoriented by tactics they had never encountered. Aliens who had once thought the humans fragile watched in awe as they used their environment, climbing walls, jumping across barriers, and turning simple terrain into a deadly advantage. Thaler felt a mix of fear and hope. Fear because he did not understand these newcomers, hope because they had come to help. He watched as a small squad of humans approached a trapped alien unit, surrounded by the warlord's soldiers. With careful coordination, they broke the enemy lines and saved the alien soldiers. The rescued aliens could barely speak, their voices trembling with disbelief and gratitude. How did they survive? One whispered. They are not like any species we have known, Thaler replied, and they are here to help us. The humans did not stop. They advanced steadily, clearing enemy positions, rescuing civilians, and coordinating with alien squads. Even though communication was limited, the aliens began to understand their intentions. They were here to fight, to protect, and to survive alongside them. Thaler felt a strange emotion rising inside him. Pride? Amazement? Perhaps both. He had fought many battles, seen countless enemies, and faced the end of hope more than once. But never had he seen a force like this. The humans were fearless, adaptable, and relentless. They turned impossible situations into victories, often with little more than ingenuity and courage. As the first day ended, the sky darkened with smoke and dust. Fires burned across the colony, but for the first time in weeks, Thaler saw something else. Movement without fear. Aliens and humans alike were preparing for the next phase of the battle. They shared information, tactics, and even food where they could. Thaler looked at the humans, standing tall among the rubble, their energy weapons glowing faintly in the dusk. We expected no help, he whispered to himself. And yet they came from the heavens. He did not know who these humans were, or why they had chosen to fight for a colony far from their own home. He did not understand their strange armor, their strange ways, or their unyielding courage. But one thing was certain. As long as the humans were here, the colony had a chance. That night, for the first time in months, the aliens dared to hope. Hope was a dangerous thing, fragile and fleeting, but it burned brightly in their hearts. And somewhere above, the human ships waited, silent and steady, ready to strike again. The battle for Xerath was far from over, but for the first time, the aliens did not face it alone. They had allies who came from the stars, from the heavens themselves, and nothing in the galaxy would ever seem the same again. Thaler closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the sounds of preparation, the murmurs of humans and aliens alike. If they can survive a fall from the sky, he thought, then perhaps we can survive anything. The night stretched on, silent except for the distant echoes of the enemy regrouping. And somewhere, far above the atmosphere, humans watched, waiting for the moment to strike again, fearless and determined, ready to change the fate of Xerath forever. The first light of Zirath's dim sun fell over the battlefield. Smoke still twisted from burning buildings, and the ground trembled from distant explosions. Yet, in the ruins of the colony, something extraordinary had begun. The humans, those strange beings who had fallen from the sky, had changed the mood of despair into a tense, focused determination. Commander Thalor moved along the trenches, surveying the scene. Alien soldiers peeked from behind shattered walls and rubble, watching as the humans organized themselves with precision. There were no loud commands, no hesitation, just action. Each human seemed to know exactly where to go and what to do. They moved like a single organism, adapting to every obstacle the terrain and enemy presented. Thalor shook his head in disbelief. "I have fought many enemies," he muttered to Rylan, who followed closely. "But I have never seen soldiers fight like this. They are unstoppable." Rylan's eyes were wide. "Do you think they are one of the warlord's weapons? Some kind of ultimate soldier?" Thalor considered it, but he shook his head. "No, they are not like any weapon I know. They think, they adapt, they feel. Weapons do not do that." At that moment, a human squad appeared on a nearby ridge. They were heavily armored, their suits glowing faintly with energy. The humans carried weapons that discharged light and fire in patterns the aliens had never seen before. They did not march. They leapt, slid, and climbed with astonishing agility. Thalor watched as the humans spotted a group of enemy soldiers preparing to ambush his unit. The humans did not hesitate. In one swift movement, they descended on the ambushers, firing precise bursts that cut through enemy lines. Then, almost as quickly, they disappeared into the shadows, leaving the alien soldiers amazed and terrified. "They vanish like ghosts," whispered a soldier nearby. "How can they move so fast and survive?" Rylan nodded. "And yet they are here to save us, not to kill us." Thalor could only watch. The humans had no fear. They did not run from fire, nor did they falter under the crushing numbers of the enemy. Every human soldier seemed fearless, focused entirely on the task at hand. Their presence began to shift the morale of the alien troops. Where fear had dominated, hope now crept in, cautious but persistent. A loud explosion shook the ground as a human squad breached the enemy's defensive line. Alien soldiers, inspired by their courage, joined the humans in the fight. For the first time, they fought as equals, not as overwhelmed defenders. One of the human squads approached a trapped alien unit. A group of young aliens had been surrounded, their weapons useless against the overwhelming firepower of the warlord's forces. The humans moved with calm precision. They formed a protective circle around the aliens, their shields absorbing the incoming energy blasts. Then, as if guided by instinct, they struck back. Their weapons fired with rhythm and accuracy, breaking the enemy formation and clearing a path for escape. The rescued aliens could barely speak. "How? How did you survive?" one asked, trembling. The human who had led the squad smiled faintly. "We do not think about it. We just move." His voice was calm, confident, and strangely reassuring. Thalor watched this interaction, astonished. He had never encountered beings who could act so decisively, so effectively, under pressure. He felt something stirring in his chest, a combination of admiration, awe, and hope. The humans were not just soldiers. They were teachers, leaders, and protectors. With them, the aliens realized they might have a chance to survive. The humans communicated through gestures and basic signals, teaching the aliens new ways to defend themselves. They showed them how to use the terrain, how to anticipate attacks, and how to support each other in ways that no alien unit had ever considered. Meanwhile, the enemy warlords' forces grew increasingly disoriented. They had fought countless battles across the galaxy, but nothing had prepared them for the arrival of humans. Their numbers meant little when faced with enemies who could anticipate every move, exploit every weakness, and adapt faster than any known species. A massive enemy mech approached the humans' position, its weapons charging for a devastating blast. Alien soldiers froze, expecting destruction, but the humans did not panic. They split into multiple directions, their movements synchronized. Some fired at the mech's weak points while others used the terrain to block its path. The mech staggered, then collapsed under coordinated human assault. Thaler felt a wave of disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. No being could do this. But the humans did. They continued to push forward, relentlessly, while alien soldiers cautiously followed, learning from every move. It was as if the humans were showing them a new way of thinking about battle, not just as a fight for survival, but as a test of wit, courage, and teamwork. In one daring maneuver, a group of humans scaled a destroyed communications tower. From the top, they redirected signals, jamming the enemy's weapons and communication systems. This small act caused confusion among the enemy forces, giving alien soldiers a chance to regroup. Thaler could not contain his awe. They do not just fight, he said. They think. They create opportunity where none exists. As the day wore on, the humans and aliens began to form a coordinated strategy. Alien scouts reported enemy movements, and humans advised on positioning, timing, and ambush tactics. Together, they struck at supply lines, disrupted reinforcements, and rescued trapped units. Slowly, the tide of battle began to shift. Amid the chaos, civilians watched from safe zones. Children clung to their parents, eyes wide with wonder as humans passed by, seemingly untouchable and unstoppable. Some whispered prayers of gratitude, others simply stared in disbelief. The humans did not speak the alien language, yet their actions communicated more than words ever could. They were here to help, and they would not abandon the colony. Thaler moved among his troops, giving orders and encouragement, but his thoughts kept returning to the humans. He observed their determination, their bravery, their unwavering commitment. He realized that the humans represented something greater than any army, any technology, or any weapon. They were an ideal of courage, unity, and hope that could not be measured by conventional means. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the battlefield quieted briefly. Fires still burned, and distant explosions marked where enemy forces were regrouping. But the aliens and humans stood together, ready for the next attack. Thaler looked toward the humans, who were gathering in small squads, scanning the area for threats. Their energy armor glowed faintly in the dim light, a beacon of strength and resilience. He felt a sense of gratitude he had never experienced before. "We were doomed," he whispered to Rylan, "and yet, we are not alone." Rylan nodded. "I see it too, Commander. They are extraordinary." Night fell, and the sounds of the battlefield changed. The enemy warlords' forces were regrouping, planning another strike. But now, the aliens had hope. They had allies. They had humans, beings who had fallen from the heavens and changed everything. From above, the human command vessels hovered silently, watching and waiting. They had not come to conquer or claim. They had come to fight, to protect, and to ensure that the colony survived. Their presence alone had transformed fear into courage, despair into determination. The aliens began to understand a simple truth. These humans were unlike any species they had encountered. They did not rely solely on technology or strength. They relied on ingenuity, adaptability, and courage. Where others would falter, humans pressed on. Where others would run, humans stood firm. In the dark, amidst the ruins of Zyrath, a new kind of battle was beginning. One not just for survival, but for understanding, trust, and the forging of a bond that could change the galaxy. Thaler looked up at the stars, wondering what kind of species could fall from the heavens and survive. He wondered where they came from, and why they had chosen this distant colony to fight alongside. He did not know the answers, and perhaps he never would. But one thing was clear. As long as the humans were here, the battle was no longer hopeless. He turned to his troops, his voice steady and strong. "Today we fight not just for survival," he said, "but for the future of Zyrath. And we are not alone." The humans, standing among the alien soldiers, did not speak in response. They did not need to. Their actions had already spoken louder than any words. Together, they prepared for the next wave of the enemy, united by a common goal: survival, courage, and the indomitable spirit of humanity. And somewhere, far above, more human ships waited, ready to descend at the perfect moment to turn the tide again and to ensure that the colony of Zyrath would endure. The sky had broken, and with it, hope had returned. The morning sun rose over the colony of Zyrath, casting long shadows over the battlefield. Smoke still curled from the ruined buildings, but now the air carried a new sound, the sharp, disciplined movements of humans and aliens fighting together. Where despair had once reigned, hope now spread among the alien soldiers. They were no longer passive defenders. They had allies, and their allies were extraordinary. Commander Thaler moved along the front lines, his heart pounding in a mix of fear and amazement. He could see alien squads coordinating with human soldiers as if they had trained together for years. Humans used hand signals, pointing to enemy positions, and the aliens followed instinctively. It was a dance of war unlike anything Thaler had ever witnessed. "Commander," Ryland said, running up beside him, "they are adapting to our tactics faster than we can explain. Look at them. They study, they learn, and they teach at the same time." Thaler nodded, eyes fixed on a group of humans who were directing alien squads toward a hidden enemy sniper nest. Within minutes, the snipers were neutralized, and alien soldiers who had once feared the terrain now moved with confidence. The warlords' forces, once ruthless and unchallenged, were beginning to falter. Their attacks had been calculated, relentless, and cruel, but they had never faced an enemy like the humans. The humans did not just fight. They predicted, outsmarted, and inspired. Every time an enemy ambush was planned, humans intercepted and redirected the attack. Every time a supply line was cut, humans improvised a new route or weapon to turn it back against the enemy. Thaler felt a surge of admiration. "They do not just survive," he muttered. "They change the battlefield itself." A sudden explosion shook the ground near the central plaza. A group of alien soldiers had been trapped under debris during a skirmish. They cried out for help, fearing they would be lost. Without hesitation, a human squad leapt into action. They moved like lightning, lifting debris with strength that seemed superhuman. Their armor absorbed energy blasts that would have destroyed any other being. In minutes, the trapped soldiers were free, their expressions a mix of gratitude and awe. One of the rescued soldiers, a young alien named Nira, turned to a human crouched nearby. How can you do all this?" she asked, her voice trembling. The human smiled faintly. "We do what must be done. We move. We fight. And we survive." It was simple, yet it carried power. Nira felt courage rising in her chest. If these humans could face impossible odds without fear, so could she. Around her, other aliens nodded in silent agreement. The humans' tactics were unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. They used the environment in ways that seemed impossible, launching attacks from rooftops, using debris as cover, and moving silently through ruins while the enemy expected them elsewhere. When alien units were cornered, humans would form protective lines, using shields and energy weapons to hold back overwhelming forces. Then, with coordinated precision, they would strike the enemy's weak points. Thaler watched one human squad approach an enormous enemy mech. The aliens froze, expecting destruction. But the humans split into multiple groups. Some distracted the mech with rapid-fire blasts, while others climbed its sides, planting energy charges on weak spots. The mech exploded in a controlled burst, leaving nothing but smoke and rubble. Thaler could hardly breathe. They are unstoppable," he whispered. But humans were not just unstoppable. They were teachers. They began training alien squads on the battlefield itself. Using hand signals and simple demonstrations, humans taught aliens new strategies: how to flank enemies, how to anticipate attacks, how to use teamwork to multiply their strength. Alien soldiers who had once fled from overwhelming numbers now moved with confidence, striking as part of a larger plan. Even the enemy noticed. War Council transmissions showed panic and confusion. "Who are they?" a voice hissed over encrypted channels. "How do they fight like this? Why do they not fear?" But the humans did not care about the enemy's questions. They were focused on saving the colony, protecting the civilians, and giving hope to a species on the brink of defeat. In one daring move, a human squad scaled the tallest remaining tower in the central plaza. From the top, they accessed old communication arrays, redirecting enemy frequencies, jamming weapons, and sending signals that disoriented the warlord's forces. The aliens watched in awe as humans turned broken technology into tools of victory. Thalor turned to Relan. They do not just fight with weapons, they fight with their minds, with creativity, with courage. We could never have imagined this. Rylan nodded. And they fight for us, not for themselves. Throughout the day, humans and aliens rescued trapped civilians, repaired damaged defenses, and coordinated attacks that turned the tide. A group of children had been hiding in a ruined market when a human soldier appeared, guiding them safely through the rubble to a secure zone. Civilians watched in disbelief, realizing that these strange beings from the sky cared nothing for glory or reward. They simply acted to save lives. The bond between humans and aliens grew stronger. Alien soldiers who had been distrustful now followed human orders without hesitation. Civilians who had cowered in fear now helped to reinforce barricades and carry supplies. The humans inspired confidence simply by their presence, showing that courage and intelligence could overcome even the direst circumstances. Meanwhile, the enemy tried to regroup. Massive reinforcements arrived, and the battlefield erupted in chaos. But the humans were ready. They had studied the enemy, anticipated movements, and positioned themselves to intercept attacks. Alien squads moved in coordination with human units, striking the enemy from multiple angles simultaneously. Thaler could hardly keep track of the events. Humans were everywhere at once, attacking, defending, rescuing, and teaching. Every move was precise, every action deliberate, every outcome designed to give the colony a chance. By midday, the battle had changed dramatically. Where once the aliens had been on the brink of defeat, they now had a clear advantage. The enemy forces were disoriented, divided, and losing morale. They had never faced an opponent who could adapt so quickly, think so creatively, and act so fearlessly. In the central plaza, Thalor gathered his officers. "We have a chance," he said, voice strong. "Thanks to the humans, we can push the enemy back. We fight not just to survive, but to reclaim our colony." Rylan looked at him, eyes shining. "And to think, we had given up hope." Thaler nodded. "Never again. Today, we see what courage and determination can do." The humans, aware of the battle's shifting tides, continued to lead strikes against enemy positions. They identified supply routes, sabotaged weapons caches, and directed alien squads to trap enemy units. Every movement was coordinated, efficient, and deadly. In one remarkable moment, a squad of humans approached a massive enemy artillery station. The aliens had believed it impossible to destroy. The humans split into two teams. One distracted the enemy, drawing fire, while the other scaled the structure and disabled the weapon with precision tools and energy charges. When the station erupted in smoke and fire, alien soldiers cheered, their spirits soaring. Thaler watched and felt something he had not experienced in years: hope, pure and unshakable. Humans were not only changing the battle, they were changing the aliens themselves. They had taught courage, cooperation, and innovation simply by example. As evening approached, the battlefield began to quiet, though small skirmishes continued. The humans and aliens stood together, tending to the wounded, repairing defenses, and preparing for the next wave of attacks. The colony was far from safe, but for the first time, survival seemed possible. Thalor moved among his troops, offering words of encouragement. "Today, we have seen what we can achieve when we fight together. Today, we have seen courage that knows no limits." Nearby, a human officer observed the scene, nodding to his squad. They had come not just to fight, but to ensure that these aliens would live to see another day. Their mission was clear: protect, inspire, and survive. The aliens began to understand something vital. Humans were more than warriors. They were problem solvers, leaders, and unyielding forces of nature. They could take impossible situations and turn them into opportunity. They could inspire allies, confound enemies, and endure where others would fail. Night fell over Zerath, the sky glowing faintly with the distant stars and the remaining fires from battle. The humans and aliens huddled in secure positions, exchanging what little supplies and knowledge they had. Conversations were limited, languages differed, but actions spoke volumes. Humans shared tactics, guided patrols, and encouraged the aliens to trust in themselves. Thaler gazed up at the night sky, watching the humans preparing for another wave. He thought about how hopeless the colony had seemed just 2 days ago, how fear had dominated every corner, every heart. And now, with these beings from the heavens, they had hope, strategy, and courage. "We expected no help," he whispered to Rylan. "And yet, they came, and they have given us a chance." Rylan smiled, looking at the humans. A chance we could never have imagined. The enemy warlord, meanwhile, could only watch as his forces faltered. No strategy, no overwhelming numbers, no terror could counter the humans' ingenuity and determination. Every move he made was anticipated, every plan disrupted. He had faced many foes in his lifetime, but never a species like this. And as the night deepened, Thalor knew one thing with certainty. Humanity had changed everything. They had turned despair into hope, weakness into strength, and the impossible into reality. The battle for Zerath was far from over, but now the aliens had allies who could not be defeated, not by fear, not by numbers, and not by any weapon the warlord could deploy. And somewhere above, in the dark expanse of space, more human ships waited, ready to descend at the perfect moment, to reinforce, to strike, and to ensure that the tide of battle remained in their favor. For the first time in weeks, Zerath breathed, and in its breath, hope lived. The first light of dawn crept over Zerath, casting soft orange streaks across the scarred land. The battlefield, once a place of chaos, now looked strangely calm. Fires still smoldered, and the distant echo of collapsing structures reminded everyone that the fight was not yet over. Yet a new energy pulsed through the colony. Humans and aliens alike had survived the most desperate hours and emerged not just alive, but stronger. Commander Thalor moved carefully among his troops. Alien soldiers were inspecting the remnants of their weapons, repairing what they could, and tending to the wounded. Some had collapsed in exhaustion, their armor scorched and torn. Others carried civilians to safer zones, guided by humans whose presence was now a constant source of calm and strength. Thalor's gaze found the humans standing in small groups, scanning the horizon. Their suits bore scratches and marks from the previous day's battles, yet they stood tall, calm, and unwavering. The humans did not rush. They did not panic. They moved with quiet precision, watching over the colony as though its safety was their own responsibility. Rylan approached Thalor, a rare smile on his face. "Commander," he said, "look at them. Every action, every move, they teach without words. I have never seen anything like this." Thalor nodded. "Yes, they are extraordinary. Not just because they fight well, but because they inspire. Because they show us what courage truly is." Even the civilians who had hidden in fear just days before were now beginning to emerge. Children peered cautiously from behind walls, watching humans guide alien soldiers to rebuild defenses. Parents followed, carrying supplies and offering quiet thanks. The humans accepted their gratitude with a simple nod or a faint smile, never seeking recognition or reward. The warlord's forces had retreated into the nearby mountains after suffering heavy losses. Scattered patrols still lurked, but the tide of battle had clearly turned. For the first time, the aliens felt they could breathe without the constant shadow of fear. Thalor gathered his officers and alien leaders. "Today, we fight no longer just to survive," he said, voice firm and strong. "Today, we begin rebuilding. Today, we honor those we have lost, and we prepare for the future. And we do this alongside our allies, the humans who came from the heavens to fight with us." The mention of humans drew quiet murmurs of awe. Some aliens still did not fully understand them, their strength, their speed, their fearless approach to danger, but they could see the results. Humans had saved lives, turned the battle, and inspired courage in even the weakest soldiers. A human officer approached the group, signaling with a simple gesture. Thalor stepped forward. "You have done more than we could have hoped," he said. "Your courage has saved countless lives. Tell us, why did you come?" The human officer's expression was calm, almost neutral. "We fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves," he said simply. "We do not fight for glory or for reward. We fight because it is right." Thaler felt a lump in his throat. Such clarity, such honor, was rare in the galaxy. Humans did not boast. They did not seek recognition. They acted because action was required, because lives were at stake, and because courage demanded it. Meanwhile, squads of humans continued to coordinate with alien engineers and soldiers, helping repair the colony's defenses and stabilize damaged structures. They shared knowledge of tactics and construction, teaching aliens how to strengthen walls, set traps, and defend key areas. Slowly, the colony began to feel less like a battlefield and more like a home again. In the central plaza, civilians and soldiers worked side by side, inspired by the humans' leadership. Children helped carry small supplies. Young soldiers repaired barricades, guided by human instructions. For the first time in months, laughter and conversation returned, quiet and cautious, but alive nonetheless. Thaler walked through the plaza, observing the work. "We could never have done this without them," he said quietly to Rylan. "They changed the way we think, the way we fight, and even the way we hope." Rylan nodded. "They are more than warriors, they are teachers, and they fought alongside us, never demanding anything in return." By midday, the humans began to prepare for departure. Thalor noticed their movements were organized and deliberate, as always. They had stayed long enough to ensure the colony could defend itself, and had trained the alien soldiers to coordinate attacks, anticipate enemy moves, and maintain morale. Thaler approached the human officer once more. "You leave already?" he asked. "Will we ever see you again?" The human officer shook his head slightly. "Our mission continues elsewhere. But know this, if you need help again, we will come. You have proven yourselves capable. You now carry the strength to survive and protect your people." Thaler felt both pride and sadness. Pride because the humans had trusted them, and sadness because he knew their departure meant the end of this extraordinary bond. But he understood. Humans were not conquerors. They were guardians of hope, moving across the galaxy wherever help was needed most. The human squads boarded their ships with quiet efficiency. Alien soldiers saluted them, civilians waved, and Commander Thaler stood tall, watching the strange vessels rise into the sky. He could feel the weight of what had just occurred. The humans had arrived when all hope seemed lost, and they had left a lasting mark on the hearts and minds of everyone present. As the ships ascended, Rylan whispered, "Commander, I do not think we will ever forget them. The way they fought, the way they led, it is unlike anything we have known." Thaler nodded, eyes fixed on the horizon. "Nor will we. They have shown us the meaning of courage, unity, and honor. Xerath will remember this day for generations." For the rest of the day, the colony focused on rebuilding. Alien engineers, inspired by the humans' example, repaired structures, strengthened defenses, and helped civilians recover from the chaos. Soldiers practiced new tactics, integrating lessons learned from the humans into their drills. The humans had not just fought a battle, they had left knowledge, hope, and courage behind, tools that would shape the colony's future. Even the warlords' retreating forces could not ignore the impact. Scouts reported alien soldiers moving with newfound confidence, setting traps, and anticipating enemy maneuvers. The humans' presence had created a ripple effect, transforming not just the outcome of the battle, but the abilities and mindset of an entire species. That evening, Thaler gathered his officers one final time before night fell. "We have survived," he said. "We have learned, and we have been shown the strength that can come from courage and determination. Humanity has taught us that even in the darkest moments, hope can fall from the heavens and change everything." Rylan smiled, looking around at the recovering colony. "We must honor their lesson. We cannot forget what they showed us. We must carry it forward." Thaler nodded. "Agreed. We will train, we will protect, and we will grow stronger. For the humans and for ourselves." As night settled over Xerath, the sky was clear and filled with stars. The human ships were far above, traveling toward their next mission. Their presence had been brief, but their impact was eternal. They had arrived when all seemed lost, fought with courage that defied imagination, and left a legacy that would inspire the aliens for generations. Children whispered stories of the humans who fell from the sky. Soldiers recounted their tactics and bravery to one another. Civilians spoke of the kindness and determination of beings who fought not for glory, but for life itself. Thaler stood atop a ridge, looking over the colony, feeling a quiet pride. They had survived, yes, but they had survived because of more than just luck. They had survived because humans had shown them the way. The humans had arrived when no one expected help, and they had given the aliens a chance to rise above despair. Somewhere in the galaxy, other colonies would face their own battles, their own moments of fear and desperation. And somewhere, humans would again fall from the heavens, fearless, determined, and ready to fight for those who could not fight for themselves. Thaler smiled faintly, thinking of the future. "We will not forget," he whispered. "We will honor their courage. We will grow stronger. And one day we will be ready to stand alongside them, wherever the fight calls us." The colony of Zerath had survived the impossible. The aliens had learned, adapted, and grown under the guidance of beings unlike any they had ever seen. And though the humans were gone, their legacy remained, etched into the hearts of every soldier, every civilian, and every leader who had witnessed the courage of a species that fell from the sky to change the fate of a world. And as the stars shone over Zerath that night, there was no fear. There was only hope, courage, and the knowledge that somewhere above, humans watched, waiting to descend again, fearless, determined, and unstoppable. For the aliens, the galaxy had changed forever. And for humanity, their journey continued, silent, swift, and ever watchful, ready to bring hope to those who needed it most. The story of that day would be told for generations. We expected no help until human infantry came falling from the heavens, and they changed everything.